Welcome to the Elevate and Dominate podcast, where we dive deep into the world of dominance and submission, kink, and everything BDSM. I'm Goddess Arroya, here to challenge the myths, break down taboos, and empower you in your journey.
And I'm Mistress Odessa. We're here to educate, inform, and explore the truths of power exchange, consent, and the psychology behind kink. Because knowledge is the key to safe, fulfilling play.
And this is Orpheus Black. This isn't about play. It's about connection, growth, and understanding the deeper layers of dominance and submission. So whether you're a seasoned player or just beginning your journey, this is for you.
Let's elevate the conversation
And dominate the narrative.
Welcome
to
to
Elevate and
Dominate.
Dominate.
Greetings, lovely listeners. Welcome to another episode of Elevate and Dominate, where we dive deep into the art of power, connection, and transformative journey of kink. Today we have Kemo Burns, a renowned rope artist whose work transcends physical, exploring the emotional and spiritual realms of rope bondage. Kemo draws their passion for rope and kink to create personalized experiences for people, and they connect with them. They've been studying rope for 7 years plus and consider themselves a perpetual student of rope. On top of educator, Kemo, thank you for joining us. How are you? It's wonderful to finally have you on the show. I'm very excited. It's been some time, right? It's been quite some time.
I'm glad to see your face once more, Goddess Arroya. I had so much fun tying with you. So
Yes,
having not seen you since then kind of really brings me back to that moment.
yeah. It was really fun. It was it was going to be my first time, but it ended up being my second time being tied. And it was very emotional for me. I didn't realize it was going to be emotional. And I really started to understand the more and more that I tie and learn how to tie, I'm starting to understand the emotional aspect of it. And in our session together, I needed to be held in that moment. And it was very, very, very interesting, the things that happened, that the visions that I had in that moment of just being tied and confined in bondage at that moment. And I just had to bring you on the show. And I was so happy because we had a conversation with Orpheus a couple weeks ago about rope and the intricacies of rope. And I just knew it would be great to have you on the show. So welcome to the Elevate
Hey,
and
thank
Dominate
you.
podcast. We have my here co-host Odessa, Mistress Odessa, and of course Guru Orpheus Black. I'm starting to sweat already, y'all. It's like what the
Can have an effect on women, I'm just saying.
That's it.
yeah. How are you? Let's start with that. How are you? How are things, Kemo?
The way I like to describe it is there's really a constant ebb and flow of life, and I do my best to kind of just ride that wave with grace and with integrity, and then I kind of feel okay about myself. Because if not, then you don't feel good about yourself. So I think that's what I do. Sometimes life's hard, but you make it work, and sometimes things are great, and you just revel in it. So take it day by day.
Well, I'm hoping things are great for you right now. It's
Yeah.
actually a beautiful day amongst a rainy week, which is odd, right? LA's weather's been really crazy, so that can kind of mess with our mood as well. But I'm glad that you are doing well and that you're here with us. So my first question is, can you share your perspective on how you approach your negotiation process? Because when we had our session, we had a lengthy negotiation process, and I know in that moment it was really important for us to get a lot of things taken care of and spoken about. So what is that? What is your perspective on the session and how you approach it?
Perspective on the session and how I approached it, or like in all sessions.
How you approach your negotiation?
Okay, so negotiation is kind of like the keystone, right? Like it's really where we should at least be if we're doing our due diligence, like crossing all of our T's and dotting our I's, and like setting what our intentions are going to be, like where our boundaries are, like triggers, like what not only like what potential triggers are, but like what happens if we are triggered? And even if it wasn't something that we thought might trigger us, like if I am in a triggered state, like what's my next, steps? Like, how do I, is there a soft emergency contact, like someone like a friend who you can like talk to, or there it could be all kinds of things for all kinds of people, and everyone's different, and there's the intersectionalities of mental health and even emotional wellness, or like for that given month during that cycle, or there's so much. So negotiating is super important.
Do you kind of use the same process for everyone, or do you change it for each scene? Because I know you work with everyone.
Yeah, during even just the initial conversation, getting an understanding of like what intentions are and what desires are is really important in orienting the direction that, my actions and energy are going to move, right? So I do try to get desires and intentions kind of so I can have an idea on what at least which direction emotionally, or like in our scene there was conversation of a feeling of being held and embraced and constricted, yet like adored and admired. So and then we just, yeah, it's like tuning, right? You just, okay, this is the direction we're going. And then there's the nuance of like every moment and how those transpire, and like how we're connected, how are we staying connected, how are we disconnecting, and like, yeah.
I like it. I like it. I like it. How do you communicate? I remember there was a moment where you were like, "So when in the beginning of the negotiation, so if I say something, how are you going to stop me? Are you going to say stop here, or are you going to say wait? You have different. I mean, I think it was kind of the same too. When Orpheus asked me a question, he did kind of prompt me in how I was going to respond. And I didn't really expect that. I don't know why. I had never been tied, so I didn't know the process. So I didn't know, anything in the process. And when I was listening, most of the time it's from Orpheus, for what I see him tie, he usually says the same prompt to people. But when you're speaking to people, do you worry about like later on if you did that correctly? Did did they answer that correctly? Did I
Mm,
stop the area? Did I
Yeah, so I have like a checklist. I feel like when we first tied, yeah, I was a little, we were like at the studio before class. It was a little, I know I didn't go through the checklist, but yeah, I try to play it by ear for the most part. If I feel like if I'm integrating these structures enough and if I'm doing them right, then I shouldn't have an issue repeating them in
mm,
person. But then there's like circumstantial, like whether if I'm at a noisy club, right? Now conditions are changing, so I might not have the same amount of time to negotiate with this person, and therefore I might not even, like, I keep it very much to like this performative sort of exhibitionistic scene, almost like lighthearted, if that makes sense,
yeah,
right? Like
it does.
I'm not definitely not trying to invoke like some sort of subspace, even though like obviously things occur and you be prepared for that, but definitely not intentionally trying to go deep in a
Right.
situation like that.
Hmm.
Interesting.
I think what's interesting is oftentimes we conflate, especially new people, conflate negotiation with safe word conversations. Do you consider them two different conversations, or are they the same conversation for
I think safe words should be discussed in your negotiation for sure. I mean, if you're going to be like, for me, getting into any level of like consensual non-consent requires like a deeper level of intimacy and trust for me. Like, I don't want to push somebody to a place because it's bit me in the ass already, in my life experience. Like, you don't want to, yeah, play with things like that, especially if you don't really know that person. So yeah, safe words are, although important, I feel like the use of like simple red, yellow, green, or just plain English is often sufficient. If I mean, obviously we still talk about safe words, but that's still it's enough because I'm not playing CNC with these folks.
Right. Especially with those you know. So, what are for some those people new to the scene? What are some key considerations when you prepare for a rope session?
Risk is a big one. Like, yeah, risk and risk is okay. Consent is not consent if unless it's informed, right? And so someone's like, "Oh, that looks so pretty. I want to do that." You know, if they don't really understand what they're undertaking, then are they really consenting to what they're doing, right? They're just ignorant and yeah. So yeah, risk is huge. Being realistic about your skill level and where you're at and how you're going to mitigate that risk, whether it's going to be avoiding, commonly impinged nerves or yeah, like, doing a partial or just floor bondage. And communication also super important. It's good to really get to know people before you try to like embark on these deep journeys together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're meeting someone, like say someone walks up at DomCon and they're like, well, "I want to be tied. Can you? Do you inform them, or you just like this is something that you might want to do later on? Maybe you need to inform yourself a little bit more later, or do you take the session?"
That's not really like my move. Like I feel like there's just too much risk and I'm too old for that shit. Like I don't wanna accidentally because okay, for instance, I tied someone once upon a time at my first DomCon and they had been doing rope for many, many years. They're like they're in the scene and they'd seen me tie and so we talked about tying and there was a moment where they had their stuffed animal and to which I like was like, "Would you like your stuffy?" While they were suspended in rope, I like tied it to them like in a very like this is you and your stuffy, and they had never experienced like a transcend or like a combination of little space and like rope subspace, and which that then required, obviously aftercare was a little longer than a normal scene, but then the follow up like conversations were also incredibly important. And at that time, prior to the scene, I had not anticipated those needs, and so it kind of yeah, it definitely was like a awakening. Like, oh shit, this is we're really treading like deep waters for people. And even though that scene to me felt like it was very connective and beautiful and I was grateful to hold the space, but I didn't beyond the scene I didn't have too much more emotional attachment. And I think honoring that is something that exists. That's something that I was there to alchemize with this human. Like you've gotta be there for that. And so yeah, that's something I learned.
Yeah, I'm
Mm.
sure I learned a lot of lessons in this business, and like exploring vulnerability with people. How has that been? Has that been a task?
The, the helicopter.
That's
Yeah, I was
okay.
like, I can't hear you.
Take this moment.
Wait, wait a second.
Okay, to your question, how has it been?
Yeah, explore vulnerability with certain people. Is it easier to explore that vulnerability with people you know? Of course, I'm sure. Or maybe
Absolutely.
that or expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, we talked about negotiating and how important that is. But, even like before negotiation, the vetting process is like imperative to like what we're doing, because if we don't know like how if this person, let's say, doesn't have much experience in what it is that you guys are doing, then they don't you don't we don't know what we don't know. So if they're to suffer, like the risk is much higher for them to suffer through something that could be potentially like emotionally jarring because um they didn't know what they were getting into.
Yeah.
Mm.
What I find so beautiful with what you're saying is like I've heard this so much from Orpheus, and I feel like Orpheus is like being on the podcast has really like brought this energy in. Is like male dominants who are so much more intentional than I think a lot of people have seen. So like everything you're saying is like it's so nice to hear, and like I feel like a lot of it is reflected to things that Orpheus have said of like the intention and like being able to connect, and like even in maybe not necessarily word for word, but like maybe not in the moment knowing exactly what they need, but then seeing it and being able to still provide that space. I think that's like such a talent and like something that's learned over the years. Do you feel like that's been a challenge learning over the years, like from that session that you just referred back to versus now? Like, are you still
kind of seeing that happen to where you're like, I maybe wasn't as sure that you needed this now that we're done with this, with the tying. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that definitely when we make mistakes, if we're not taking away like a gem of knowledge from that, then like what are we doing, right? Because like that is that like you win or you learn kind of mentality, right? And yeah, so every time I've made a number of mistakes. I'm not perfect, I'm
We all,
yeah.
yeah.
No one is.
So, hmm but yeah, we just gotta figure it out from there. Like, does what transpire, like ask ourselves, did what happened, does that align with like who I am or who I want to be? And if that's not a yes or an F yes, then, you should reconsider what it is that you're doing.
Hmm. Where would
Yeah. So I guess yeah.
no? I Go ahead. If you're, I wanted to ask
I
you.
mean, just yeah, to your point, like yeah, it definitely gets easier for sure because it's just like tying gets easier, right? Like because the the pattern or the idea that you're doing and how it is to do it becomes more efficient because you've done it so many times and not only there's muscle memory and you just recognize things because you've done it so much. So yeah, like as you do things and as you've especially dealing with intimacy and whether it's outwardly sexual or not, like dealing with intimacy is incredibly sensitive for pretty much everyone, but some people more than others. So doing it on a consistent basis definitely like gives you experience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
I'm
I get
sure it
it. And
does.
with the intention that you have too. Like not a lot of people have that intention of what you just said. So I'm sure like that makes it even more beautiful working with someone like you or like Orpheus, especially like in the male dom realm or like as a top,
Top,
someone
yeah.
that's in that space.
What are some of the misconceptions that people may have about rope bondage?
Oh man, misconceptions. I mean, it doesn't always have to be like, well, how about this? Like, I see so much rope that's been sterilized over the years. Like, rope can be sexual. Like, let's not make mistakes about that. Like,
Yeah,
that's where it came from. So, yeah, it's right to honor that.
right. It doesn't just have to be pretty.
Hmm.
Yeah, I gotta know who's your as a person who's an aficionado at rope. Who is your favorite rope artist, or who did you look to for inspiration?
Well, I mean, I could for sure say one person who's inspired me the most, the person who, yeah, I feel like I've emulated my style around theirs for the longest time is a colleague, Leaf Bound. They're up in San Francisco, but Leaf and Icarus teach classes up there and they're amazing. They used to be here based in LA, where I was lucky enough to have some access to them. But yeah, they've since moved on.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And when you're talking about your different style that you emulated, is it more of a Western style of rope, or is it more of a Japanese aesthetic style of rope?
I would say Leaf style is definitely Eastern, but there's like elements of like minimalism and efficiency, and their ability to connect is profound, and I think a lot of people can learn from them. And they're young; they're younger than me, which is
Really?
great. And first of all, like we need more AFAB riggers in the world. To have somebody like him who is like, you know, just the way like an enigma of like talent and yeah, they're great. Yeah, check him out. Leafbound, Housebound, up in shout out to the home.
Is that who you initially learned from?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
How
mean,
long?
that's not who I guess I started at with this woman named Monica at Hitchin' Bitches at Sanctuary. That was my first class way back when. I studied under Mistress Cassie at the Lair for a little while. But then there was like a lot of YouTube, and then yeah, then I had the pleasure of catching a scene that Leaf and Icky had that blew my mind, blew the lid off what I thought kink could be, Yeah, I had no idea. It brought me to tears in public. And
Wow.
yeah, so I was like, okay, this is. I guess I'm doing rope now, and so that's what.
That was that 7 years or more. How long ago?
Yeah, something like that. Well, maybe that scene was probably 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I don't know, but yeah, I started taking the first classes with at Sanctuary, just as one-off classes with the.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. So, for those looking to deepen their practice, what are some resources that you can recommend for them if they're looking to grow in the group scene?
Yeah, first I would like to shout out Queers Do Rope. That's a place that is it's QTPOC exclusive. So it's like a non-white, non-cis space that does rope, and they do a monthly jam and a monthly munch. So yeah, check them out. Queers Do Rope at Queers Do Rope on Instagram and all the
Where's
stuff.
that at? What area?
They have it at Devil's Mask Society in downtown. Yeah, that would be the other default. Like that is the premier rope studio in Los Angeles. There's another one in Long. Shout out to them down there. But up here, Devil's Mask is kind of they're ruling the things. They've got the big instructors that come from overseas to teach at their place, so they're kind of the recognized studio.
Oh, okay. I've never heard of them. It's awesome. Maybe you can shoot us their information and I can post that because that'd be interesting to post for people. So, looking ahead, what are some of your aspirations? What are some things that you're looking to do with this?
Um, I think Kemo's ready to take a back. Um, I like I like doing what I do. I'm not never gonna stop tying. I'm never gonna stop evolving my practice and trying to fun and funky ways to distort the body and enjoy it. But yeah, I think like I think I don't need to carry the torch anymore. I think it's time for someone else to step up because I think like yeah. Yeah, Kemo's been burning, and I'm still gonna, but I have, I got priorities, and I have kids and responsibilities, and so like I don't have the energy to go to all the events or to do like, I'll do, that are fun for me and enjoyable. Yeah,
Ain't that how it's supposed to be, though? Where you can just do. I think sometimes we get so caught up in, some people get caught up in like making a mark in a certain area. And it's just sometimes about having fun and doing what you like to do. And so I think that's a good thing for you to take your time to do things that you enjoy doing and not having to kind of owe your time to this community. You've done you've made your mark. But I think also there are newbies that are coming in that deserve to know more about you as well. So, maybe classes, that'd be cool. Maybe
Oh
teach
yeah,
them.
I should plug. This is where I plug myself. Thank.
Yes, it is. Get
Um,
there.
I will be. Check out my website, chemoburnsrope.com. I'm available for all the. And I will be teaching at Lightning in a Bottle. It's a festival coming up in Bakersfield at the end of the month. I teach a workshop there. This is my fourth year consecutive. Um, yeah, I don't know if I'll keep that going, but I've loved it. They've been so good, and it's been a really nice experience. I took my kids one year. Like, it was it was cool. So recommend that if anyone goes to.
Your website is beautiful. I looked at I was at work and I was just like, I'll be with you in a second. I was like, oh my, these photos, like you're obviously, I've seen your work in person, but like it's so beautiful. Like I would say if you want to learn anything, contact this one right here. It's very beautiful. Yeah. The one on like the or like lamp post or something. Was that you?
Yeah. The,
I don't remember what photos on there. Is it there might be a picture on tied to a post.
Yes. I was like, whoa, it was like fascinating.
That was by my friend Jaina. Shout out to the Rope Coven, Switchy Witch out in San Diego now. But she's amazing rigger.
Yeah.
it says here, some of the quotes on your page are, love the perfect mix of sadism and sensuality. I really appreciated how when I needed an adjustment, you took care of that right away. Being able to adjust attend to the adjustments while also being able to still keep the scene going meant a lot to me. I loved how challenging this was and how communicative you were, both verbal and play check ins. Overall, super naturally flowing scene and a great pace. I'm so excited for more. So, you do have some wonderful quotes of people, expressing how they feel about your sessions. Can you maybe tell us about a session that excited you and made you never forget what happened in that scene or session?
What do I want to? Because yeah, I've had some interesting one that kind of um there was this lovely person like gifts me, and I'm so appreciative of because it's very like rope centric. Like, um, yeah, I definitely like they're supporting me for sure. And, one time they took me to like this really extravagant like dinner on some, and like I felt so VIP. Like I felt so like ordered like everything on the menu. I was like, you know, my car was too big to fit in the parking lot, so they were like, "Oh yeah, just park it on the top next in the valet next to the Maseratis." And it was just like I felt so like it felt so nice. I was like, "Damn, rope got me." It was just a really surreal moment of appreciation of like of that night, and it was fun. We had a great but it was just nice to feel like I was so like
Did you tie this person prior to that?
yeah, we've tied before, but we that night we tied at their room on like one of the
Oh, so cool.
yeah, so we tied on the luggage cart and then we tied like on the bed and just kind of played around and didn't sleep, you know how those go. It was I was exhausted, but it was worth it.
That's
Aw.
awesome. So let me do a right quick. I need to do a quick commercial just to give us a little break right here. It's the perfect time for that. And for all of our Elevate and Dominate listeners, we want you to support the show and get exclusive content and behind the scenes access and some special perks. Please go on to patreon.com/elevate and dominate and become a patron today. Your support helps us bring more amazing episodes like this one, and also join our members over at YouTube. Go ahead and push that button right now and subscribe to the show so that you can level up your kink journey with us. Okay? Thank you. And we're back. So maybe we can talk about deepening the practice. What are some things that you may that you do to deepen what you're learning? Are there things that you look at every week? Do you have a process that you do to just grow in this section of your life?
Yeah, right now I've been trying okay, like when you play a video game and you've got a character and like your attributes like you can level up these attributes. I feel like by leveling up other attributes, it makes my rope better. So
Mm.
recently I've been on this tip of like contemporary dance
Oh,
and a lot more integrating like my background in martial arts into like the kind of play that I enjoy. So though like staying inspired by challenging myself like or giving myself like a prompt um has been really helpful.
what martial arts are you that you have background in?
So I used to compete in mixed martial arts professionally in my adulthood. So I did like a lot of um, I did some traditional martial arts as a kid. Like I got into karate and the Japanese styles like Aikido and Judo. And I didn't know anything but that until this open MMA gym opened up in my city. And then I went in there and I was like teaching. I think it was like after I taught that day. I was like, oh, there's an MMA gym. So I'll go. And then I went like after. And I think we did sparring and I like kicked some guy in the chest. I remember I dropped him. Like, um, he got up and then it wasn't like over. Like in karate, that's like, oh, that's a point. And then you stop and then you reset and then you go again. That like it wasn't done, and then he like gets up and he like I think I tried to kick him or something again. He grabbed a hold of me, put me on my back, and then I was like a fish out of water. Like he was like passing my guard. Before I know it, he's sitting on my chest and he's punching me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I? So yeah, you get humbled real quick, and then you're like,
Wait. So you're not the same Kemo from that fought in the UFC.
no, that's a different. He's big. You mean?
The only Kemo I know, lifelong martial artist and martial arts fan here. You know what I mean? So I was like, wow.
Yeah, I fought at local shows. I did see. I had like 13 amateur fights and 4 pro fights, but I fought for like King of the Cage, like Lights Out. There were some other like gladiator challenge, like local professionals, but I didn't stay in it long enough. Like a bunch of my friends and teammates and stuff, they moved on to the UFC, but yeah, I think I started to like recognize, I think it was like early levels of like CTE and like some stuttering in my speech. And, I have 3 kids and they were little my youngest one's like, he was like, yeah, he was little. So I remember just thinking like, this is too much. Like I'm going to get older and I'm going to be like punch drunk. And I'm like, I have to, I got to move on because I'm not getting paid that much. You're making a couple grand to show and then a couple grand to win. And that's if you win, right? And so it's like, yeah, I had to make that decision.
Did you have any injuries that sustained or stayed
I
along
mean, I
with
broke
you?
my nose my first fight. Hands like broke wrist, but um, a rib, but nothing like permanent.
Let me see your hands. Put your hands up right there. Yeah. Okay. I was wondering because most of the time martial artists, because I've learned this from Orpheus, hitting stuff, your hands are just so big. The muscles in the hands grow. Look at those big old goodness. It's real. Crazy. So what are some of the things that you're integrating? Because I think that's awesome to integrate that into your rope
Yeah,
and
it's
ringing.
a movement stuff. Like contact improv has been blending kind of like a move with me energy, which is it's kind of there's some like levels of lead follow to it, which are akin to partner dance or like even rope, right? Because like, you know, this is somebody who's I mean, it depends on the scene, right? Like some scenes that can be very like, okay, this is like abduction or like um um
Mhm.
so when I do contact improv rope, um, really there's a lot of like, yeah, it's a lot of movement stuff. And then using though of that to kind of like move the body into different closures, because that's kind of the idea with bondage is we want to close mobility of some sort, right? So like a
Mhm.
fudo or like an arm binder, we're taking this like open ability to like right, and we're shutting that. And so like finding different ways you can shut the body in like so many different ways,
Mhm.
like through the leg. So it's yeah, and then playing with that in a way that's playful, like going this position to another thing on the room, but like keeping that seamless. Like scene is still undergoing. Like
I think this is what people don't understand. Like the novice doesn't understand. They want to get better at doing a thing when you have to be really good at being a thing, right? It's like you can't just do floggers. You can't just do rope, right? That's not a scene. It's like who do you want to be with the other person, right? And you have to improve your beingness, the way you move, the way you interact, how you embody sex, sexuality is super important. And so it becomes this kind of everything you learn has to be an amalgamation and come into one way of being in the world with a partner. And this to me is like super important. I think that you're kind of extolling this, where you got like MMA, dance, rope, so on and so forth, and it's all coming into one glorious practice for you. Would that be correct?
thank you. It's really nice to hear such kind words. Guru Orpheus, I mean, has been someone who I've idolized since like my beginning days of, the LA kink scene. I remember running into you at a restaurant one time after you were doing like a Aikido class or something with people in the martial arts class, way back when, and you recognized my partner being a little because she had some little or some kind of shirt, baby girl or something. I don't know, but it was Yeah, that was just really cool. I felt like I saw a celebrity, so I'm grateful to be here and to hear those words.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I appreciate your practice because for your generation, you're setting, and, and let's be clear, it's not your age, it's your generation. It's not how old you are, it's the era with which you come into the scene. And so for your age, you are setting a precedent for what a master in his craft does, right? And I swear, if I see another person just put on a harness with no connection, with no breathing, with no meditation, with no connection, with no intention associated, I'm just gonna freaking just lose my shit here, right? So when you come and do your thing, it looks like magic, but really what it should look like is a practice. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, don't we all think people should do it the way we do it? But the reality of life is everyone's got their everyone's got their own style and their own. There are other rope dojos that I haven't mentioned in LA because you know there's a lot of like one true ism. There's like a TK needs to be done specific like I don't know. That's cool for you if that's how it works for you. But everyone's got their own. Like I'm so queer in my life. I feel like my rope is like I try to do things just differently because not only because I get bored, because I feel like that is like inspired to be or to be it also says a lot to be comfortable enough with your partner to be able to have the space to make those mistakes, right? So that's another reason why fostering your relationship with people, because if it's the first time I'm tying with someone whom, I met a couple times and it's like our first date or something, like, you're going to do the things that you know are good. You don't want to like do creative things. So it's where you can really just be free and lab and mess up and figure out and make adjustments is so important.
I always think, well, I was thinking like that day, like I would have never known if you messed up or anything. Like, I was just like, do the thing. And that is what novices do when they come into it. It's like we don't know exactly what to expect when we're in this moment. And, when it was happening, I'm just like, okay, well, am I holding myself right? Holding my arms right. Like I'm thinking all this stuff, but not thinking that maybe you were thinking that way as well. Am I hurting this person? I don't know what's going on in your head. So are there some things like that happen like that where you're like, oh, I hope they like it. And they're like, oh my God, that was amazing. You're like, was it?
Yeah, feed figuring out what yeah, that it grows, right, with time, right? The more times you're spending, then you kind of understand breathing I mean, I'm sure Guru Orpheus can talk to this, but like there's there's so much about a way that a person can express themselves without even start saying words. So like recognizing that and being in tune with your partner is incredibly important. Obviously, everybody is different, so negotiations tells may be so really important. But yeah, communicating throughout is good. If you're not sure, ask. Like even if we're breaking the headspace of the scene for a little while, like at least or you could do it in a kinky fun way. Like, are you okay, you little slut? Or you know what I mean? Like, can you breathe?
Hmm.
Some deep fun, but um yeah, because if we're not having fun, what are we doing? This is so much
Right.
work. This is
So serious. Yeah. I mean, it is. Has there been like someone that you work with and they just don't respond and they're just like a deer in headlights doing the whole scene? And you're like, I don't know if you had a good time or not. Has that ever happened to you?
actually that did happen, and unfortunately, we had it was the greatest scene, and this was earlier on whatever practice, but it was like recently it was the first time I had tied this person. We had gone on like a handful of dates. We were like getting to know each other. Things got like spicy. We were like, okay, let's try to do a rope scene. So I thought that I had established a baseline of like, we feel good. We like intimately. I felt like, um, yeah, like sex wasn't bad. It was, they communicated through that well, and we seemed like we were still functioning. And so I thought that would be cool. Like, let's do some rope, but they had never done rope before. They just seemed really interested, and okay, we'll do something slow. But I I had this grandiose idea of deciding to put a blindfold on because that's what I like. And so I projected what I like onto this person in an effort to be like, I want you to have the scene that I would like when that's not the scene that, and this was their first time in rope. So a blindfold is fucking huge. And so
Yeah.
I didn't think that that would be so big. I thought that it would be just doing it the way I would want it done. And,
Mhm.
but I noticed like, um, a little bit like stiffness, like a little bit of like bodily resistance, which I think in retrospect is kind of like the body, it wasn't comfortable with me moving it in the move. Um, so yeah, this is all like, I'm not saying this to glorify. This was definitely not my bet. I mean, the aftermath of that was, we communicated about, they had talked about certain things that they feel like I didn't respect, which was the blindfold was like over their eye and then it had slipped down like to like cover their nose a little bit. And they didn't like that and they had addressed that to me and I had pulled it up, but then later in the scene it had like slipped down again and I didn't catch it. And so yeah, they let me know that they didn't have a good time.
Mhm.
Definitely, yeah, I felt really terrible. And then there's all the follow up and the accountability, right? Like people don't just disappear, right? They're functioning in our communities. So making sure that you're there if they need to talk or if they want to yell at you, like, like this is what we signed up for. If you're not ready to be accountable for it, then
So what's the check-in process after for you? Do you call the same day, the next day? I don't we did talk after, but of course I don't remember exactly how that went. But what is your
standard. Yeah, it's also nice to just have conversation, like feeling like, what is this, like disposability, like feeling like it was, it was just for, I don't know. Sometimes it can feel like you're one stop on the top Mary.
Yeah, I'm sure I've heard that before. Like they just want to take the ride and get off and be like, "Yeah, that was fun. I'm going to the next thing." Which I mean, for a person that's new in kink, can be like that. It's like, oh, I'm at a candy store and I want to try all the candy. And so,
Where have I heard that before?
it's me. It's me.
Somebody knows all about that.
Why I'm teaching a class at TomCon on it.
Yeah.
Exactly why, because the newbie frenzy is real. It's so real, and it is a thing, that I truly experienced and probably still am experiencing because I just find so much joy in this world right now. I'm finding so many things. The other day I was at Orpheus and I picked up a crop that had a cross on it. And I was like, ooh, and I saw he's like, the joy on your face to these things that are just regular to me just gets me. But I mean, I think that I've heard that quite a lot actually. My sub is always, you have this face that is just like you're having so much fun. And I am. I am. I'm in a time in my life that this is like, I feel like a kid again. I'm learning something new and I love to experience these new things, and I'm grateful to have a mentor and a partner who is allowing me to experience these things.
Wait a minute, you talking about me?
Yes, sir. I'm talking about you. So yes, yes.
I think what's important, is in my opinion, there's 50 million people who call themselves whatever they want. They can be master, mistress, dominatrix, so and so and so forth. But to me, it's important that people have experience. It's not only good enough to have mentor knowledge or book knowledge, but experiencing. And so going out there and having those experiences is really important. Bottoming is really important. And I always say Doms should start at the bottom and work their way up to the top, so that they can have not only the experience from the bottom, but manage their own expectations for their subs, right? That's super important. What do you think about that, Kemo?
Absolutely, I agree. I definitely didn't have a kink experience of starting from the bottom. Now we hear, but I did start. I started as a top, but then I realized the value of switching, and so I've definitely been intentional about him. bottoming. Yeah, for a number of different things, and you try the things on, but enjoy the ones that you do enjoy. Like, man, like I've learned that for me, like rope bottoming is where I really enjoy being under the um control, my trust. Yeah, like I
Yeah, I seen that you had a post of you, and I was like, I want to know more about that. I didn't know that you bottomed until I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, at first it was very experimental switching. So like I would bottom, like I would do switch dates with like my or like other riggers and stuff. Same and doing like self suspension quite a bit of. I feel like it just doesn't it just so yeah, now I'm spoiled. Now I have like a number and my partners, I try to teach all of my partners rope so that I feel like, and then it works out great because then they get to yeah, yeah, it's nice to be in rope. Whether it's suspension or it's, just some painful shit or
So, is there anything that any events, or are there any events that you may have coming up soon that you want to share with our audience?
well, other than lightning in a bottle, if no one or if if some people can't make it there and you're here in LA weekend, a promoter who I work with a lot, Mistress E, who Guru Orpheus is aware of as well. They have an event coming up, so I'll plug them. What
Wait, am I doing something? I'm like, wait, am I doing something with E?
I don't know. I don't know if, but I mean, I know you have. I don't know if you're doing this one coming up at the end of the month. I know she has something coming up. It's the Art and Kink event, but it's a good one she throws, and she only throws 3 of each parties, and I think this might be the third, so this might be the last installation.
Okay, cool.
Do you have any more classes that you may be teaching anywhere?
Not currently. Keep you posted. Yeah, I found I know I can use. But right now I mean there are other rope school stuff. So if anything, I'll for a jam. But yeah, I'm available for privates, but I'm not doing any group classes currently.
Why don't you go ahead and give information on where people can find you online? I'll definitely post it in on our YouTube page, but maybe let people know where they can find you information.
Yeah, you contact me on my website, kemoburnsrope.com. There's kemoburn.email.com, email inquiries. Yeah, my Instagram handles at kemoburns and my X slash just for fans slash everywhere else handle is just Kemo Burns, KEMOB. Also FetLife. So yeah, find me.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Your insights today have illuminated the intricate dance of trust, communication, and artistry in rope bondage. I'm really excited to share the second portion of our scene that I didn't post. I posted the first one on our Patreon, and I'm going to add the second half to this episode so people can see your artistry. Thank you so much for finally making it to the podcast. I know it's been some time. I kept texting like, "Are you free today? Are you free tomorrow?" And then it was like probably 6 months later. But hey, we're here now, and we're happy. And I love that you made it. And thank you so much for coming back and coming on with us and sharing with my two co-hosts and definitely sharing with our audience. Anything you want to leave our audience with before you sign off?
Oh man, just thank you. You are gracious host. Thanks for having me, guys, and thank you for those who are supporting me. Um, yeah, come up and say.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for you and your art.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Elevate and Dominate podcast. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. Stay tuned every other week as we continue to unravel the mysteries of dominance and submission with a twist. Don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and share your thoughts using hashtag Elevate and DOMMENATE. Until next time, embrace your desires, explore the unknown, and always remember, power is meant to be shared.